I used to run a very minimalist tools and spare setup for my bike rides. Just the CO2, a spare tube, tire levers and some quick patches, and a multi-tool Mini-9 from Topeak that basically just has the bare minimal hex key setup. Then a few years ago I went on this solo ride, ended up with 3 punctures, and that ride kind of made me completely change my whole setup. I ditched the CO2 for a mini pump, and that tiny multi-tool I swapped for a bigger one from Lezyne, which I actually didn't really like very much, so I ended up picking up another multi-tool. This time it was another Topeak tool. It's the Hexus II, and that is what I've been using the last couple of years. It's actually a really nice tool, and it has almost everything I need, and even includes the built-in tire levers, but at the same time it has a lot of stuff that I don't need, and it's definitely not the most compact or lightest tool out there either. So as I picked up the extra light stem that you saw in my last video and the extra light rotor bolts from before, I have this issue of T20 torques that has increased exponentially on my bike now. And none of my multi-tools has that size, which is starting to make me a bit paranoid. So as I needed to fix this T20 torques issue, I also got the idea that I could take all my multi-tools, strip them down and kind of build, or at least try to build, the perfect multi-tool that has everything I need and nothing I don't need. And that would also make it a bit more compact and hopefully a bit lighter, because you know, the lighter the tool, the more respect receives the fool. I still was missing that T20 torques, so I started to research this online, and there's not many brands out there that makes foldable multi-tools with the Torx T20. The usual size is T25 or T30 or T15, I think. You can find some ratchet tools with loose bits. If that's your thing, I prefer not to have anything loose though. But in the end, I found Topeak actually makes another model called the Mini-10 that has that T20. Unfortunately, it has a lot of other torque sizes I don't really need, and it's also missing a couple of hex sizes that I do need. But it's not that expensive, so I decided to pick that up to make this project work out, hopefully. Luckily, those missing hex sizes I can cover with my own Mini-9 tool. So the first step was to take the multi-tools apart. It was pretty straightforward. I just needed 2 4mm hex keys for the Topeak tool and a 3mm for the Lezyne tool. Now, from the Lezyne tool, the only thing I will use is the chain tool. While I never needed to fix a chain out on a ride in all my years of riding, it's still something that's very hard to hack together out on the road. So having that chain tool would definitely be a nice insurance to have out on a ride. The next step was to go over the bike and figure out exactly what kind of tools and what sizes I need to cover the whole bike. Well, excluding the old specialty tools like lock ring tools and stuff like that. But that's usually not something you ride with anyway. So to start with, I needed an 8mm and 6mm hex key for my pedals. Luckily, I can use this 6mm tool with the 8mm cap. Then I needed a 5, 4, 3 and 2mm hex key, and that will cover the derailleur, seat post, saddle, brake calipers, shift levers, through axles and bottle cages. We have that T25 for the top cap and that dreaded T20 for the stem and the brake rotors. The last tool is the chain tool from Lezyne, which also have some integrated spoke keys, which is a nice bonus. I did actually test the chain tool from my bigger Topeak Hexus II as well, but as you can see, it didn't really make it very compact, and it needed a separate hex key as well, so the Lezyne was a better solution. No need for a flat or Phillips screwdrivers in my case. That might not be the case if you have an older rear Mac, for example, that usually requires a Phillips screwdriver or a flat screwdriver. So yeah, there you go. So with all the tools lined up, I quickly realized that the Topeak Mini tool body would be the perfect size for this Franken tool. And then it was just a matter of figuring out the best order of the tools and using the washers to take up any gaps so the tools wouldn't just flap back and forth. And as you can see, everything worked without a single problem. Big brain. In the end though, it worked out much better than I thought it would. The only little compromise I need to do is to remove that 8mm cap from the 6mm hex key to be able to access the 2mm key. But that tool is not something I would use very often, I think, so it's not a huge problem. As you can see, it's not very compact having the chain tool threaded onto this small tool body, but the plan is to have this separate in the little tool pouch. So all I need to do is to thread this on if that day ever comes when I would need to break a chain out on the ride. Fingers crossed. So this tool came out to be 129.5 grams, including that little pouch. It's not super light, but it has everything I need apart from a tire lever, which I will probably use the one from the Hexus II tool anyway. So I had some other things planned for my little lightening of the whole tool and spares kit, and that was to swap my normal spare tube for a TUBOLITO. I had no idea how you say this smoothly. TUBOLITO tube on my road setup, and that would not only save a bunch of weight, it would also save a lot of space. The road setup was really the main focus of this little exercise, and the result for my whole toolkit was 184 grams, and that includes the new multi-tool, the spare tube, a tire lever, the quick patches that will probably just work as tire boots now, as well as a quick link and a valve core tool. My original setup for reference came in at 282 grams, so I'm well happy with that weight saving for sure. Another thing I added to my 650B setup was this Dynaplug Racer to quickly plug holes if needed. I know there's been a lot of mixed reviews on this specific tool, but I always carry a spare tube anyway if the plug would fail. I have yet to have a chance to actually try this tool yet, so it's a good problem to have though. For the 650B setup, I could actually go with just that Dynaplug and no tube, and that kit would be 165 grams for reference, but I would not ride without the tube personally. I will pick up another TUBOLITO tube for my 650B setup as well. It just hadn't arrived in time for this video. Also, I won't change my mini pump. I love my Lezyne Road Drive, and it's actually not much heavier than say 2 CO2s and a valve, but it has unlimited use and it can pump up a 650B tube no problem as well. Love that thing. Also, before anyone freaks out, when I go on my longer rides, my backpacking trips, I will take more spares and other tools as well. So this is just for my day setup when I want to go as light as possible. If you feel tempted to do something similar, remember, don't just copy this. Actually make sure what kind of sizes your bike requires. Or just get a big ass tool with everything and the kitchen sink on it and don't care about weight. It's not healthy anyway. I will drop links to everything I used down in the description if you're interested, and that's pretty much it, I think. I realized this was a very niche video. Probably won't rack in many views, but I gotta say, this is kind of the stuff I actually really enjoy making. So if you want more nerdy stuff like this, feel free to subscribe, and if you do, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.